Really, really cold. Yeah, I was in an area that at the time our apartment was really bad, and that I don't think that's anything to worry about anymore. They kind of because of that they made all the apartments a lot better, but we didn't have heating, and so it was really bad. It was just really cold. There was an icicle in our apartment. It was cold. That was on Christmas. It was a memorable Christmas. The one that all the missionaries talk about is Cosh, which is basically like what they do is they take cow hooves and cow stomachs, put it into a pot, boil it for like a couple days or something until the cow hoof becomes like soggy, kind of and rubbery. And then they like have this soup, and then they throw in a bunch of salt and garlic and dried Armenian bread, so it kind of becomes like a mush. And then you take this like tortilla bread kind of, and you scoop it up and you eat it like that. It's weird. Like it's definitely something that you have to get past mentally, but it's not. I mean, it's not too bad. It's not the worst thing I ever ate. It was the weirdest thing I've eaten, but it wasn't the worst. I think one of the biggest things I learned is like the concept of fake it till you make it, kind of the ability to fake confidence. That's like so successful, not just in missionary work, but I think in like basically every aspect of life, pursuing careers and stuff, just the ability to pretend like you're really confident and like you know what you're talking about. I had a companion who said, you should speak Armenian so confidently that even when you make a mistake, the Armenians doubt that was a mistake. Like they doubt the way that they've been speaking. So yeah, I think that was the biggest skill that I learned, is just like being confident or acting confident, at least until I become confident. So, well, I mean that cold winter was pretty crazy. The one that I had just talked about, that was just like really cold. It was just really, really cold. And it was a hard week. But yeah, just like mornings waking up and being like, oh, I'm so cold. But as far as like crazy dangerous stuff, I mean, nothing too scary. The violence and crime rate is pretty low in Armenia. Like no one owns guns because they're too expensive. And so, I mean, there was that same area, that super cold area. The Armenian apostolic priests there are not super friendly. So we had a couple times that they would kind of push us around, but nothing that when it happened, I was like, oh my gosh, I almost died. Kind of, when it happened, it was kind of like, oh my gosh, that was so crazy and like so fun, and I kind of feel like how missions are, like when crazy dangerous things happen, it's kind of like, whoa, that was awesome, but yeah, I mean, nothing too crazy happened. There's crazy stuff that happened every day, not crazy like dangerous, but just like, crazy cultural stuff or just funny things that just happen every day as a missionary, and that's, I think, one reason that makes it so fun. But yeah. So Armenians love, they have like sayings or like little phrases that they'll just say all the time. One of them is pulling a donkey out of the mud, which kind of means like, oh, I'm doing this hard thing and just, getting by, that's kind of what it means. I don't know. And usually new missionaries will just kind of like throw that one out as in reference to how we're speaking Armenian, like, oh, like how are you learning this language? Oh, I'm pulling a donkey out of the mud, and they love that. So I said that once. It was like my first area and I couldn't really speak, and the guy was like, oh my gosh, how did you learn that? And I was gonna say my companion taught me, but I accidentally said my bathroom taught me. So he was really confused and I didn't know how to correct it. So that was awkward. But yeah, I can't think of any other specific things that are appropriate. So yeah. For the most part, I think it says everything in the packet that you get, all the important things. But and you'll get a letter from the mission president, which will tell you everything, and they usually include the things that you need to have. But a good winter coat, good winter boots, that was important. Especially like waterproof boots. That was very helpful. But Oh, one thing that's really important is pictures of your family. So like carrying around like a little, just like a little book with like pictures of your family or friends or whatever. Armenians love pictures. They just love looking at pictures, especially of Americans. They just think it's fascinating. So it's a great way to get to know people, to like break the ice, kind of like, hey, this is my family, want to look? And so I think that was a daily tool that I used. I think, the biggest thing I learned, and this is probably what most people learn from their missions, is just what it means to be truly converted and truly consecrated to the Lord. What it means to truly give your efforts, your full efforts to the Lord, not only through actions, but through thought, through attitude. I think that was just the biggest, I think, change of heart that I received on my mission is just, just being striving to be completely converted to the Lord in all aspects of my life, in word and in deed, basically. A lot of spiritual experiences. The one that comes to mind right now is when I was serving in Gumri, there was this investigator that we met. Oh, and this was kind of a cool experience that kind of just showed that the Lord has his hand in all things. But long story short, I got sick one day, and so we had to stay home. And so, but I didn't want to just kind of sit around, because I could still do things. I just couldn't really like walk around a lot. So I wanted to show the Lord that I was still trying to be a good missionary, that I was still trying to be diligent despite my circumstances. So I grabbed the area book, and I started calling numbers from there of former investigators, and we called the number this man named Liova, and he ended up being one of our strongest investigators, which never would have happened if I didn't get sick, honestly, because we kept saying, yeah, we're going to call people in the area book, but we never really set aside time for it. So we started teaching him, and that was, I think, one of the biggest examples of conversion that I've seen. It was just interesting to notice, he started to feel the Spirit. He started to desire to feel the Spirit more, to desire to learn from us more, and to desire to pray and read and keep commitments. And one day, he was our taxi driver. So one day he's driving us back to our house. We had just met with him and his family. And he told us that he had a fairly serious addiction. And it was a pretty big addiction. And we just had an incredibly spiritual meeting in the car, just sitting outside of our house. And he committed, and he said, okay, I'm done. We were like, okay. And then he was, and it was just crazy to see that repentance process, how, he was showing his faith by acting, by deciding, and by going with that decision. And I'm not sure what happened to him. He was really close to getting baptized, and then his wife didn't let him. So that was a struggle. But I think the missionaries are still every now and again meeting with him, and I still have hope that he'll be baptized. But he was a huge example to me of faith and of conversion.